Hey, this is Steve Tinnon from Within the Ruins, and you're listening to Interview Under Fire.
When you lie with the lion, you'll never wake up to the truth.
All right, everyone, Sonny back here with another new episode of Interview Under Fire. Steve Tinnon, man, thank you so much for joining our podcast today on IUF. This is an important yet exciting time of the year for you and the guys over at Within the Ruins, with the release of your sixth studio album, Black Heart, which drops November 27th on EOne and Good Fight Music. You know, first off, congratulations on all of the well-deserved recognitions we're getting so far. But before we get to all that, for my listeners, I'm going to ask you a very important question to start things off. It's a very simple one, but I think it's an important one to ask considering where we are at our lives at this point. How are you, man? How has life been for you and the guys over at Within the Ruins? And, our lives have pretty much changed since, maybe changed more so or less since March. But how's life in Texas? You're in San Antonio, so how's life out there right now?
Man, cool. But I mean, I'm sure you're aware of being a fellow Texan that our state isn't handling this as well as they could. But, that just kind of is what it is. And we're not the only ones, obviously. But overall, I think I'm doing pretty well. I mean, you just hear tons of stories about people that are like, oh, dude, I can't do this anymore. I'm sick of being cooped up and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm a bartender and my bar has opened up 2 different times. Like the first time they tried to open up and we were open for a few weeks and then everything got shut back down. And then we opened up again a little over a month ago. And like, we're doing all the precautions, following all the rules and stuff. TABC came in a few weeks ago because they're checking everybody and we were on point. Yeah. So I was glad about that. But so I'm kind of back to work. But before I was able to get back to work, I was actually doing fine. I didn't feel super like cooped up or anything. I was doing cool with just waking up, eating, playing video games, doing a workout, eat again, video games, Call of Duty, like everyone's been doing till you fall asleep, and then just repeat the same thing. Like, I haven't really had a big problem with it. I don't mind being like by myself.
Our schedules were the same. the first 2 months, I'm like thinking to myself, I remember Doom Eternal came out and I was playing that, getting Interview Under Fire, like up and running and talking to talented musicians like yourselves. Waking up, my schedule was like, I think it was 5 a.m. to like 2 p.m. and then whatever it is happens that day. But now it's like, now I'm working from home. I'm blessed that actually I had that position. I'm glad you're able to do your bartending thing. You start to really see things opening up for yourself the longer we're into this thing. Speaking of, where you are right now, we're at home, being away from the stage a lot as of late. How are you keeping up your vocals these days? Is that affecting your musicianship? Has anything changed for you routine wise as far as that is concerned, if at all?
My routine, because I mean, it's one thing to be like in the middle of a touring cycle and you're in and out of tours and your voice is just kind of keeping up in shape. I'll be honest, I haven't done the best job of keeping up, but like I do a lot of like singing and stuff in my car though. So I kind of grew up like just singing along to stuff on the radio and popping a CD in the boombox and trying to sing along to it. So like I still do that kind of as it is. So it's not like my voice is completely out of shape, but so I'm kind of constantly keeping it somewhere. But it does mess with it because you're not doing a 30-45 minute set every night for a few weeks and then taking a little bit of time off, but then you can build your voice up within like a day or two. When you start that next tour, you're in a repetitious state and it's tough because you're not doing that. But if we were to pick up touring in the like next month or two, I'd be fine. It's not the same.
I'm assuming you live in a place where you can just belt out as much as you want without the neighbors complaining, right?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay.
I wish I could. That's why I do it more so in my car.
But,
I wish that were the case. It's a house, but it's not.
Yeah, I can tell you're like thinking about like different ways you could have done that, but hey, I mean, you're making the best of the situation like we all are. And
that's all you can do.
Within the Ruins has been around for 15 years. I know you joined in 2018, like we talked about before the interview started. But for you personally, Steve, how was the touring life and the live experience for you personally anyway? Because I know you were with Silence the Messenger before joining Within the Ruins. Mm-hmm. And with that band, they've toured with, Black Dahlia Murder and Suicide Silence and As I Lay Dying when I saw you guys 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's been some extensive touring throughout your career. What was your favorite part about it? Because now you're kind of taking like an unseen step back. And does it make you have a growing appreciation of the touring life? Because we're talking about culture, the fans, even the food. Like we talk about food, Fuzzy's Tacos, across the trees. That's the first thing that popped in your mind when we talked about it. I don't blame
I was
you at
just
all.
like that taco spot. I know.
So, just little things like that. What was your biggest takeaway from from the touring life? What do you miss about it the most?
I think it probably is I think it's that environment of being around people. Cause all of us touring guys miss it, but even if I wasn't able to play shows right away, I still miss being in that environment of going to the shows and just being around live music and being around friends and just having a beer and a good time. I just miss the environment a lot. The traveling's cool, but like I think most touring guys would tell you, you're traveling from city to city in a van or whatever, and you don't really get a lot of time to walk around unless it's a day off or something. It's load in, sit around, wait, go to Fuzzy's Tacos, and get ready to play your set and then fuck off. So the traveling, of course I miss it, but I just miss that environment, man. Playing shows and just going to shows, I miss both. That's probably my biggest thing from touring. I think it's just the environment.
A very popular topic on their show for the last 8 months. I can't believe I've been saving that number 8. 8 months.
I know. I thought about that the other day too. It's been a minute.
And you've seen this. We've even had bands on the show. We've had Lamb of God, we've had Insomnium, on the show. They talk about their experience on doing it. Live streaming. A lot of the bands, what they do on stage, they're taking it on the screen like we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. I believe Code Orange was one of the first bands to do it. I think 2 days after the pandemic was announced, they did that. I don't know if you saw it. It was a show like in an empty venue, and then they streamed it to fans.
I remember it. And Suicide did it, and
Suicide did it. August Burns Red has one coming up, I believe next week. But I wanted to ask you, being on the road as long as you have, all the experiences that you've taken in, all the people that you met, do you think the quarantine-induced live streaming surge we're seeing right now from these bands, is that going to affect the touring musician business going forward? Do you still see bands doing this even after all this is over?
Possibly, but I think it would be more of a controlled thing. Like you could potentially set up some sort of a DVD Blu-ray scenario for it if you want to, and be in super control of your lights and audio and stuff. And it's not that like you're not, if you were to do one of those old school live performance DVDs, but I think being forced to do it in a room by yourselves can kind of put an interesting spin on it, where I don't think that I could be totally wrong, but I think that there's an opportunity there, I guess you could say, for it to continue on. But I think people are always going to want to go to live shows and be in person and not just hear the music, but feel it. I think the live shows are going to come back just as strong because people have missed it, and they're going to go wild when they're able to do it. But I think there might actually be a place for the staged streaming style thing, as little one-offs here and there, maybe to do some special stuff.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer to it. I always like asking this question to different artists, because some people will say, "Oh, I'm not doing shit until all this is over," and some artists would say, "Yeah, it's a great way for me to engage with fans. It still allows me to do what I want to do." And of course, I have the liberty to mosh in my room if I want to. That's why we're in the corner and not in the middle of the room where it's all crazy. But it does make you miss the live experience even more the more and more you go to that. I went to that Metallica live show. What was it? The drive-in.
The drive-in thing? Yeah, Joe did the same thing.
Yeah, I went to that, and Dallas sold out like immediately. Luckily, a friend of mine was able to get a ticket, and I got there, and it just made me miss, seeing someone like Within the Ruins, like the energy that you guys exhibit on stage. It made me miss something like that. Little things like that, even more.
Stuff. Yeah, it adds up. But Joe went to the same thing, and he was just like, "Dang, we might have to hop on this train."
Hey, it's not the worst idea. I'm just saying,
No,
I mean,
no.
It's still a way for you guys to engage with the fans, especially with the new album. Speaking of the new album, I know we cover everything from head to toe. I promise we'll talk about that right now. Blackheart, man, coming out November 27th on EOne and Good Fight Music. It's been on repeat in my studio for the last, whenever I got the promo. The mission statement, there was a mission statement that was out for this album, and it was Domination. You guys definitely did that, hit that to the T. When I heard it, as I was going through these songs, it was so vicious. It was so unrelenting, so hyper-focused. It was a very complimenting record to like Invade and Elite and Halfway Human. And you guys blended sounds of classic death metal and technical staccato precision. And I play violin, so I
did too.
Yeah, there you go. See, it was as far as progressive, and there's clean singing in there, which is something new that you guys did. So I wanted to ask, how much did things change from when you guys first started composing on this album to where you ended up finishing it? Did a lot change in between? Did nothing change in between? Was there already a specific sound you guys knew you wanted with Blackheart? Because I'm going to go back to that clean singing because that was a new thing. That threw me off and I loved it. And as far as progressive deathcore, if you want to call it that, that's as good as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, the clean singing, Paolo did some of that on Halfway Human. That was when they first started experimenting with it, but we kind of took that and like tweaked it even more on Blackheart. At first, we weren't really sure what the sound of the record was going to be because now we had been writing this for a while. It was close to 2 years of Joe beginning writing new songs and then me coming to the studio out there with finished products. There was 2 songs that came out a little after I joined the band called World Undone and Resurgence, and that was kind of just to introduce me to everybody so they weren't going to wonder who this new guy was until an album was done. So we did those, but that was like 2.5 years, maybe 2 years or so ago. So they've been out for a little bit, but then after that was when Joe really started writing the album, and we've got like a few tracks in, and you kind of just see, we did all the stuff at Joe's studio out in Massachusetts. And so it's a lot of him figuring out how I work behind a microphone in the studio and me figuring out how he operates and how he likes to do his takes and how long and an infinite number of things. And so we went through first few tracks and they turned out cool. But then after that, we kind of started to figure out a vibe of how each other works. And then he realized where my lyrics were coming from. And then he's like, okay, I get it now. Steve's upset about some stuff. And a couple of the guys in the band were upset about certain things going on behind the scenes. And it kind of all worked out to where I was coming in with a lot of personal angry issues, and the band had been dealing with some stuff, and it was kind of just like the stars aligned and we're like, we're going to write a pissed off record is what we're going to do. And so Joe was like, you always get those people that are like, it's a lose-lose. So if you stick to the old sound, people are going to get bored. If you try new stuff, people are going to say, stick to the old stuff. It's a lose-lose. But what we tried to do is bring back some of the old Within the Ruins, like you said, the old staccato stuff, like back in the Creature days and Invade days and stuff, but introduce a little bit more of that clean singing stuff and marketability, and just kind of blend the two, but in a pissed off way. And so it took a few tracks to figure it out, but then kind of in the middle, and then especially towards the end, we were like, we know what this record is now. And everybody was on the same page throughout the whole process, though. It was awesome.
I'm going to throw another name at you, is Josh Wickman, and he's known for his work with, Kingdom of Giants, Rise and Chaos, Knights of the Abyss, and he's a longtime producer and a mixer and a mastering engineer for you guys. Was there a sense of comfortability in the studio knowing you had someone like Joe, knowing you had someone like Josh, and you're like, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. Let's go get it.
Yep, absolutely. Because if you go back and listen to the final Silence the Messenger record, we did that with Josh Wickman.
Wow.
Yeah, we got hooked up with him because of Within the Ruins. And so like Paolo and I's old band, STM, was friends with Ruins since like 2009. So we've known, our bands have been friends for a long time, and now it's kind of just like a super group of the two. But
perfect.
We've been you couldn't ask for a better scenario. And so because of that, we were like, after our first record, it was time to do the second one. And we were like, we really tried to go with Josh Wickman for the first one, but we ended up doing it with a buddy, Landon, from the Plot and You, and that turned out really cool. But
oh my God, you're blowing my mind right. I love that. I love a Plot and You. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no.
That's the fan in me. You're like saying like, okay, I need to stop it right there.
Yeah, and it wasn't our first choice. We didn't know who he was at the time, but then because of doing our first STM record with him, we ended up being really good friends with the Plot guys, and that was perfect. But the second one, we were like, this is what we want to do, and so we got to go with Josh Wickman. We had to just drive from Texas to where he is out in White Lake, Michigan, in January. Go to Michigan in January in a fucking shitty van. Bad move, but we wanted what we wanted. And so STM did a record with Wickman. And so that was just great rapport. And then Wickman has always done stuff with Ruins, and being in the studio with Joe and then trusting Josh to make everything, put his little stamp on it. I was never worried about anything. Ever. I love working with Josh.
You're talking about the stars aligning. You guys seriously did that. And I know we briefly talked about it earlier in the interview. I know you joined Within the Ruins a little further into the band's timeline. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to quote Metal Sucks on this. They said you were monstrous on this record. Holy shit. And you blew me away. And I hope you hear for
Thanks.
the long run. And, you know, as long as listening to, for someone like who's been listening to Within the Ruins as long as I have, and then have you come in and just make that statement the way you did. I mean, you couldn't have done it any better. Like talking about the stars line for you, that's star to line, you know, for someone like me as just a fan. I'm just one of the millions of fans you guys have had, you know. But
thanks, man.
What is the most what is the most rewarding part for someone like you who's been with another different band like Silence and Messenger to now be with a band like Within the Ruins? Does it feel like a new chapter in your career, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, the thing was, I'd had some offers over the years with Silence the Messenger to join other bands, but I never wanted to take them. I was always that proud kid that had been with my band pretty much since the beginning, and I was always very proud of that. And I was like, no, if I want to make this happen, I want it to be with my project, you know. So I refused some stuff over the years, and then, but it's the story you hear a million times. Something goes wrong with the label, or you lose a booking agent, or you lose a manager, or whatever. And we kind of just had a combination of all three things going on for STM, and it sucked, you know. But that's the reality of the music business, is that things go wrong, and your band doesn't always get the push that you feel like you deserve. And it's always who's the new hotness, even if you've been working longer than, you know, band X or whatever. It's rough. But then, so that kind of started to fade. And eventually, like, Ruins asked Paolo to fill in on an All-Stars tour, and we were like, yeah, man, just wear STM shirts on stage every night and promote the band, and this will be great. And then we'll get back to work, and it'll be awesome. And then you kind of just in the back of your mind, though, you're like, is he going to join? And then he ended up joining. And so at first, though, like, yeah, I was pissed. Like, we all were kind of just like, yeah, I get it, but you're still going to be upset a little bit. You're going to be a little butthurt about it. And then, so I was just sitting around for a couple of years, and then Joe asked me to fill in on the middle of a headliner a few years ago. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I did it, and I made a binder of all the lyrics, and I was like studying nonstop for a couple of days before I flew out and did this headliner with him. And so then after that, the holidays went by, and in like early spring, he was just like, do you want to do this? Like, I think we're at a point where we want you on board, and we're ready to do this if you are. And it took me a little bit, because I was very comfortable with the fact that maybe STM was done, and maybe I had my shot, and I made some headway, but didn't get quite where I wanted. But, you know, I tried. I really tried. And then, so I was getting comfortable with that idea, and I didn't know at first. Looking back on it now, if I didn't take the gig, I'd be kicking my own ass, you know, because I would have I would have given it up for stupid reasons now. But so in a way, yeah, it's definitely a new chapter, and it's kind of like where I wanted to be with the previous band here now.
Do you see Blackheart, and this is for you personally, you could speak for the rest of the band, do you see Blackheart as a snapshot of where you are at a certain time in your life?
Yes. Yeah, without hesitation. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff, there's really only maybe like, I want to say, besides Joe's instrumentals, I'd say probably like 2 songs that aren't exactly related to, but the title track, Blackheart, pretty much everything else stems from that one song. And like kind of the after effects of that, and dealing with it and processing kind of what goes on in your head after the events of that particular one song. And a lot of it is showcasing the past 3 years or so, 3-4 years of my life. And I make zero bones about it, I just wasn't in a good place. I had a lot of things going on. A female thing for a couple of years. It just ended in every bad way that you could imagine. One of my best friends took his own life. There's a song for him on there. There's just a bunch of stuff, man. It's just a pissed off, angry record, and I needed to get some of that stuff off my chest. And honestly, I hope I don't have to write that record again. I hope that whatever comes next is totally different.
Yeah, it's almost like you kind of had that outlet that you needed. And my condolences to everything that you've been through. You know, I've had my shares. We've all had our shares. It's been an add on this year on top of all that bullshit.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you guys have brought us the music when we need it the most. And, you know, everything that you talked about, you know, from, you know, your personal experiences to Silence the Messenger to Within the Ruins to now you kind of just found your calling. Mm-hmm. Steve, have your aspirations as a person, have they changed or evolved since when you first started performing in the industry? Do you see things differently now?
I do. I think it's one thing to be that like starry-eyed, like this is what I want, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there, versus I was there, and now I'm just like, okay, it almost all fell apart and I didn't get there, and now I'm at a different place where it's like it's such a bigger level that you always aspired to get to. Yeah. Now you have to look at it as like, okay, I'm here, now what can I do with it? What can I do to better myself? What can I do to help other people? Can I help out bands that were like my old one that were really trying to work hard, and can I help boost them up a little bit? Like, what can I do with this this new position I'm in? It's not like I'm the starving artist crawling and scraping and begging for a chance kid anymore. I'm at a good place now, and I kind of think of it as what can I do to better everything around me, if whatever I can anyways, not exploit my position necessarily, but like what can I do to help, so it definitely kind of changes focus a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely changes the perspective for the better. And I know, Steve, we're running out of time here, so I'm gonna make sure you have every time you need before you get to the next interview. But do you have any like last words, any shout outs? Is anything you want to plug in for the fans to listen to? Anything you're doing within the ruins, like in the next couple weeks before Blackheart comes out?
There's one more single coming out.
Sweet.
There's one more single for another great track called Devil in Me. I'm stoked on that video. Is a lot more acting and kind of pushing the boundaries of what the band has done for music videos. So pretty stoked on how that turned out. And then just listen to Blackheart. Pick up a copy if you can. That vinyl looks awesome. I grabbed a copy of it. Just jam the album. And we'll be back as soon as we can once touring is safe.
Yeah, and everyone's listening. Buy the merch, buy the albums. It helps out the artists more. They need your help more than ever. And everyone's listening. Blackheart comes out November 27th on EOne and Good Fight Music. Steve, I hope we do this again. I know we talked about the Wings interview. Like we're gonna plan on this going forward.
Just put a pin in that, man. Sign me up. I'm in.
So let's stay in touch. You stay safe where you're at. I know we're neighbors technically in Texas, but you stay safe, and I'll see you next time, brother. Thank you so much for this.
Cool, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Interview Under Fire podcast. If you guys liked what you heard, please subscribe and share our channel. And please leave a 5-star review, as that helps us tremendously. And also, if you guys have any questions or comments, you can find us at Interview Under Fire at Facebook or at Instagram. Or you can write us directly at schwag@interviewunderfire.com. That's SCHWAG at interviewunderfire.com. Or Rezablade, that's REZABLADE at interviewunderfire.